So, BigBear.AI is one of the most talked about small AI defense companies. And in this video, we're going to do a full breakdown of what's going on with BigBear. Hopefully, you guys enjoy. If you do, make sure to hit the like button. And if you guys ever want to join us in our daily live trading where we are trading AMD stock this morning for a profit, then I would encourage you guys to check out the second link down below for StockMate if you want to watch me trade live. Let's take a look at BBAI. You see this momentum here. It's got this $3.50 price point at which it's really been validating and finding support at. Today, it's up 9.8%. At one point, it was up over 10% today. So our long-term position in BigBear.AI doing well. Short-term position here for BigBear, we didn't really have anything going for the day. We were trading AMD today. We traded AMDL. We ended up selling for a profit. This was the whole trade we made. We had an entry down here around 585 and sold above 685. So a nice 14% trade there for AMD. So outside of Big Bear's recent surge, is there any reason why? Well, it's possible that there could be some catalyst related to their airports new decision intelligence that they have out. Some of you guys have seen inside of the airports, they have a lot of growth happening they got international airports like Denver, they're at Heathrow, they're at SFO, San Francisco. If you look into their news and their events, you could see that they also recently announced this partnership in UAE. They got this airport threat detection partnership with Analogic. And you might say, what is that? What is the whole reason that makes them grow? Well, their financials have been okay. Like, if we looked at their income statements, their revenues were down a tad bit in their last quarter. Their debt was reduced, but overall their financials have been like okay. They haven't had any big breakouts, but one thing noted here was that their revenues were expected to have some contracts that weren't registered in this last quarter that will show up in the next quarter that should have been in this quarter. So we could have a nice earnings in the next quarter. Now, outside of that, if you look at their different industries, they got their Homeland and Border Security. They have U.S. Department of Defense contracts. On top of that, they're working with the Pentagon. Their CEO is formerly part of the, I think it's the acting Secretary of U.S. Department of Homeland Security during the first Trump administration, before founding a company that was bought by BigBear.AI. And he was the Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, focusing on counterterrorism, border security, immigration enforcement, following almost 2 decades as a career official. Now, you might say, Will, that is a fairly far right type of company to be looking at. You know, it is possible that there is some lenience toward, like, possibility that they could go down that route of like ICE or what have you, but they're not in that right now. The main focus they have is competing, as they have said in their papers that they've published, with Leidos, for example. So you guys know when you go to the airport and you go to the security and they like scan your whole body, that's a Leidos machine. Now, when it comes to this machine of what they're building out, they have a lot of different ones, from looking at satellites vision from the top. They have it from computer vision. They also have predictive analytics. But when you look at the travel and trade, they have their main product here that's getting shown up at different airlines and in TSA, which is their VeriScan that scans your face when you go through their different stuff. So when you go through. So why is that important to consider? Because this is not just a play that they are competing with Leidos, or that they're starting to build out their infrastructure that way. And the reason I say right now they don't seem to be related to like ICE, for example, or things like that, is I like personally, my wife is from Argentina, right? She's gone through all the processes of immigration. Like, I know how strict and all that stuff. Like, I know what it takes to go through it. And she's like on her way right now to citizenship, but she's here totally legal. And I know like the amount of uh, struggles that the US government had during COVID, for example, to be able to know, like, it would have been a perfect storm for my wife to just totally not do any immigration paperwork and probably be totally fine in the US or something. But, and a lot of people did that, but we went through that like grueling process of all the very dated uh, identifications and dated biometrics that were literally like papers that you send in for the immigration stuff. So when you look at Big Bear, if they're at the borders or they're working, on this biometrics that's like all right in real time, I think that it is something that's not only going to see a lot of value and that they will have more contracts, but the other thing to consider with Big Bear is how much data they have. We know that they have some $160 million contracts, things like that with Army. They have the Department of Defense contracts, but what is even more interesting to me is how much data. Like, there's been times where sometimes companies will purchase smaller companies simply to have the data that is associated with that company. So whether or not that would be a reason for them to have partnerships or not, I think that it goes without saying that because they're a company that is basically facilitating and orchestrating all of that data communication of all the people that are going in and out of the borders and in through the airports and out through the airports, that their data side of their business could be one of the biggest things that propels them forward. So they got GSA Oasis Plus IDIQ contract that happened back in December. Ever since that contract, they've had more contracts and partnerships come in, which is usually the case, as Oasis Plus and IDIQ contracts mean that they're essentially on demand servicing the government. So multiple agencies with no ceiling value on the contracts and 10-year ordering period with unlimited number of task orders. So everything else checks out. I haven't seen any big red flags other than a little bit of manipulation on the stock. As of recently, we have seen some manipulation, but that's part of the Wall Street uh, sentiment. That's part of the Wall Street buying and selling. They schedule their orders at certain times, buying right at market open or selling at market open, then buying up all the panic sell-offs. So that's part of most stocks. There's usually manipulation, but it's more common with stocks that are in this just $1 billion market cap. So when it comes to their market cap, $1 billion, and their revenue is still holding around, I want to say it's around like $200 million a year, which is still like pretty small, but they're starting to have more contracts, more definitely some more momentum. And this is the type of stock that hasn't really had as much coverage, but this 15% move that we saw recently is some indication it's really validating this previous resistance right here and this support. So what we had is we started covering it back in November. What we've been watching is that previous run where it went up to that $10.50 by about February. Now it's consolidated from left to right. It started to maybe recover and get into this trend. And this is where we start to see the potential for breakouts. This is where we start to see this trend develop. You can see this level here where you got this resistance and support. And we're looking at this trend now with the potential and a bearish outlook that they could potentially make this move. It's about a 30% swing up into the continuation of this trend and making their way back into these previous highs. And when it comes to the probabilities of this move happening, I mean, a couple things to consider. Let's say that the market tanks. Like, we have even more negative sentiment, which we actually had positive sentiment today from, well, actually not in oil. Oil was negative sentiment today because of the Iran missiles and stuff. But let's say there's like negative sentiment in the market around a war, for example. Most likely, yeah, the whole stock market can get hit, but the companies that are in AI, like BigBear.AI, and companies that are like part of cybersecurity or part of, let's say, warfare or things like that, they'll probably be okay. So now that we see it at this level, a couple things to note. While it looks like it can make this 30% run, It's looking a little bit overbought. Look at that RSI and the MACD looking overbought at the moment. So we could expect a pullback potentially tomorrow. Also, you got this resistance here at $4. Resistance right there. And what do we know about previous resistance? Previous resistance can, well, it can act as resistance, but previous resistance can also oftentimes act as a support. So what we're looking for here, that previous resistance level right there at $4.05, $4.05. Like there's about 7 times where it's gotten rejected or bounced on that level, and you got that $4.05 resistance. It just kind of broke above. So why is that important? Well, that means if we're going to see Big Bear find a bullish sentiment into this overall trend, it's possible we don't see this retest down and then we see it use this $4.10 level as a support. And that's where we start to see hyper bullish trends of that ability to make these runs into this $5.25 or $5.30 range. That's that 32% margin for profit. The long term, I would say, with their contracts that they're building and the overall investor sentiment looking better, the financials having some improvements year over year, and then the recent charts indicating this breakout above this moving average and starting to make its way back into these previous levels, I think the long term looks very good for Big Bear. The short term volatility is expected, but it's also possible that we're garnering up this level here of a potential swing that we could buy and ride up to this $5.30 range on a shorter term trade. So I'll be watching it closely. We'll be seeing for that buying opportunity. Definitely tomorrow at market open. You can see towards the end of the day as we close out the day, there's about 15 minutes left in market session today. And it's starting to run up even more since we started the video. And we're looking for this level to get up into these resistance levels. So that's what we'll be watching closely. And if you guys are looking to capitalize on BigBear.AI, we're running a sale now where if BigBear.AI with our current sale goes to $6 a share, so we see this breakout here, by the next contract expiration, which I believe is on the 31st. Got to look at it. I think it's the 31st or the June 2nd, somewhere in there. That the level, if it reaches that $6 price point, then you get Stockmate for free. Stockmate is where I trade every morning. This morning we traded AMD. It was leading AI. We trade AI companies, quantum companies. We trade the space companies and a little bit of nuclear here as well. And if you ever want to see my entries and my exits and surround yourself with like-minded individuals, it's the second link in the description, and you get a free Stockmate t-shirt when you enroll in lifetime access. So I would encourage you guys to simply take a look while that offer is available. It's the second link in the description down below, and I would love to see you there at market open tomorrow morning. We have a session every morning. You get an email with the link, and once you get the email, you can click through to the live session and see our entries and exits, as well as some other business talk that we love to go into each morning. So thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you all. Let me know your thoughts. I think this 32% move is the next level for Big Bear, and it's got to hold this $4 price range. But let me know your comments down below, as it does look slightly overextended, and it's going to have to do some work to hold that $4 price point. We'll see if it holds there. If it doesn't hold, it's not looking so hot. Maybe back down to that 375. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. We'll be playing it accordingly and look forward to doing so if any opportunities present themselves. Do hit that like button if I earned it. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.